Hey, what is up guys? This is Partha back with another video, and this time it's all about SSDs again. So today I'm going to be discussing what are the different form factors available in the SSD market and what form factor should you go with to get the best optimal performance and the price ratio for your existing PC rig. So let's start with it. So from the past few years, the market between the SSD and hard disk is going up, like this. Hard disks were taking a lead than the SSDs, but in the past few years, this market has gone from this to this. SSDs have taken over hard disks. Well, why is that so? Well, the simple answer to this question is that consumers are now understanding the need of an SSD to boost the performance of their rig. So SSDs are getting more popular day by day, and hence the result is that the prices of SSDs are also going down day by day, and higher capacity SSDs are introduced day by day. But higher capacities are a little bit more on the expensive side than some lower capacities like 120 gigabytes or 240 gigabytes, which are the most popular segments of a consumer to buy. But if you go out in the wild to buy an SSD, then you are bombarded with a very, very big decision. Yes, a big decision is to make what SSD to go with and what form factor has to go, with your existing PC to boost the performance for it optimally. Yes, that is the big question, ladies and gentlemen. That is the big question, what SSD to buy. So let's discuss it and take it step by step, and let me explain what are the form factors. So today I have with me three SSDs provided by Kingston and HyperX India, so thumbs up for them. So let me show you what SSDs I'm having. So I'm having with me two of the SATA form factor SSDs. So this is the V series, this is the HyperX Fury SSD, and then I'm having a small little M.2 SSD. So you can see the size comparison between these two form factors. Sadly though, I don't have the rest of the form factors, which are mainly the two more, only one more form factor, which is the NVMe, which is slightly different. I will talk about that when I get to the M.2 connector. Let's start with SATA first. So this is the most basic SSD Kingston is offering to you guys, and this is the UV series, and now it comes under the name of V or UV400 series. It's a relatively old SSD which I'm having. So this provides speeds up to in the neighborhood of 450 Mbps. Well, that's not bad at all. And now talk about the controller. So the controller, it is having its custom LSI controller. So it's a custom LSI controller. So that's the basic difference. Now let's come to the HyperX Fury SSD. Now this is having a SandForce controller, and this is this provides speed up to 500 megabits per second, megabytes. Sorry, not bits. So this takes up the level this much further. And now let's talk about M.2, which I'm having right here with me. Well, this is a very small SSD. I don't know if you are able to see it. I will be including the close-ups. Well, M.2 comes in two variants. The one I'm having is the full length variant, but this is the B and M type connector variant, meaning that it's gonna have two notches for the connector, and this is also known as the AHCI version. And the newer M.2 SSDs, which are also popularly known as NVMe SSDs, only have a B type connector, meaning that they only have one notch. So if you're buying an M.2 SSD, just don't buy any M.2 SSD. You have to get known whether it's an NVMe SSD or a AHCI SSD. Sorry, my dog just disturbed me. He is lying right down here. Hey Max, you are sleeping, please sleep. Sorry, that was my dog. So just don't buy any SSD, any M.2 SSD, because you have to see that whether your board supports it or not, because NVMe SSDs are supported by less motherboard these days, but with the Z270 chipset, I think so all of them support the NVMe SSD. And also this the AHCI provides up to speeds I think so 550 Mbps or somewhat in that neighborhood, but the NVMe SSD takes it up to a whole new level. It provides speeds in GBps, yes, gigabytes per second. Well, simply because the NVMe uses, a PCI Express 3 connector, and both of them uses PCI Express 3, but NVMe is simply more capable, than the AHCI one. Now, coming to the big question, out of these form factors, and the form factors I'm not having, the NVMe and the PCI Express. Oh, sorry, I forgot about the PCI Express. And also the a PCI Express SSD comes. So Intel has a PCI Express SSD, which is totally they built it on it. So the PCB and all, they are all separate. But HyperX or some other brands provide some adapters for their SSDs. So M.2 SSD. So just simply they can put it in the adapter, and then it becomes a PCI Express SSD if you don't have an M.2 connector in your motherboard. So that's also very useful. Now the big question is, what SSD to buy out of all these? Because after listening to all these form factors, I even didn't tell you about the U.2, but that's you don't have to know about that. That's also an enterprise grade form factor. And simply after all these SSDs, my head is spinning a lot, man. What to buy? Well, this comes down to a simple answer. Let me explain to you. Well, here's the answer. So if you want to buy a SATA SSD, then keep in mind SATA SSDs are more common as the hard disk which we are using use the SATA interface. Well, SATA SSDs are also a little bit cheaper than all the form factors which I told you about. So SATA SSDs are good if you are on a tight budget and you want to upgrade anyway your performance of your PC, and also staying well within the budget and get decent speeds. So then go for a SATA SSD. Or if your laptop which is not decent enough, it's not having an M.2 connector, then definitely a SATA SSD is the one that's going to help you. And even with these days caddies are coming, so you can swap out your DVD writer and install an SSD or a hard disk into it, and then install an SSD also. So two SSDs or one SSD or hard disk. So that's great for SATA SSDs. Now coming to M.2. Well, M.2 is just a little space saver, as you can see that this SSD is very teeny tiny, and this is also for system builders or enthusiasts who just want to save space and also get a little more decent speed. But with the NVMe SSD, the game goes a little bit, not a little bit, way higher than the AHCI SSDs or the SATA SSDs. Well, they provide speeds in Gbps. Well, those SSDs are for enthusiasts who are looking to put everything on an SSD, not even using a hard disk. Well, if you have got that money, if you have got that huge stacks of cash with you, then definitely go ahead with an NVMe SSD. But if not, then go for either an M.2 SSD or a SATA SSD. And my recommendation to you guys is always buy not less than 240 gigabytes, because I'm having the 120/60 and also the 240 which is installed in my laptop. So I installed a SATA SSD because it didn't have an M.2 connector. So always buy a 240 gigabyte SSD, because 120 or 60 GB just simply they are not enough. If you install your OS and many apps, then it's just gonna fill up. With a 240 SSD, then you can also always pair a 1 terabyte hard disk, so that the big amounts of data can go into the hard disk and the small amount of data or the OS can go in the SSD to get the optimal performance. So I hope now, if you're going to buy an SSD, you would be understanding that what SSD is best for you. And if you like this video, hit the like button. If you thought it sucked, then you know what to do. And please leave a comment if you have anything else in your mind related to SSDs. And please subscribe to my channel, share this video, and stay awesome. I'll see you next time.